Today we're going to go 75 miles an hour on a bone stock 2018 RXT-X 300.
Getting the optimal performance out of your supercharged personal watercraft really isn't all that difficult. That is, if you follow the guidelines outlined by the owner's manual and the manufacturer's recommendations. In the case of our 2018 Sea-Doo RXT-X 300, we had just surpassed 50 hours on the clock and knew it was time for service. Although it's often best to have your local dealer's service department or certified BRP mechanic tackle your ski service, many of you are the do-it-yourself types, like ourselves. So we're going to show you how we recommend changing the oil, filter, and spark plugs, with a few extra steps to ensure your machine runs its very best. First, we ordered the official Sea-Doo Fortec 300 HP oil change kit from the Green Hulk PWC Performance Store. It comes with a gallon of XPS 5W40 synthetic blend summer grade oil, as well as the oil filter and O-rings. You won't be needing the whole gallon, but it's nice to have an extra quart handy. It also comes with 3 NGK spark plugs. Next, we picked up a HydroTurf fluid extractor to siphon the oil out of the dipstick tube. HydroTurf offers an optional 15-liter version, but the 6-liter pump was all we needed for today. Most all technicians agree that it's all but impossible to siphon out all of the old dirty oil, which we tend to believe. That's why we picked up a gallon of generic store brand 5W40 synthetic blend to use as what we like to call sacrifice oil. More on that in a minute. Now let's get to work. As always, we begin by disconnecting the battery. We start easy enough by removing the 2-piece seat and the engine inspection cover. Don't forget that in addition to the 10 Torx head screws along the sides, that there are 3 more hidden under the ski pylon cover plate. With the engine compartment fully exposed, working on the Sea-Doo is remarkably easy. Our dipstick read slightly above the fill line, which is spot on when the engine is cold. Too often people overfill their engine oil, which produces a windage effect inside of the crankcase. Windage slings oil under the pistons connecting rods and crank, and can actually slow down their rotation, decreasing RPMs. Overfilling the oil level can also result in potentially damaging crankcase pressure, pushing superheated vaporized oil out of the crankcase and back into the engine's intake. So again, do not exceed the recommended 3 quarts of oil. Carefully feeding our fluid extractor into the dipstick tube, we sucked out just a little under 3 quarts of burnt spent oil. Knowing that a few ounces of the old oil remained inside, and not wanting to contaminate our fresh XPS oil, we poured in 3 quarts of our cheap sacrifice oil. We then turned on the hose and let the engine idle for a little over a minute. Although not mandatory, this extra step helps flush out the remaining deposits inside the crankcase, ensuring that our XPS oil won't be contaminated as we pour it in. Using our extractor, we then withdraw the sacrifice oil and pour in our new XPS oil. Next, we remove the oil filter. The filter is enclosed by a sealed lid that uses 2 rubber O-rings. The filter is attached to the lid by rubber grommet, meaning replacing it simply means popping the old one off and replacing it. Whether the O-rings look good or not, we recommend replacing them as the service kit comes with the new ones anyway. With those replaced, we applied a little bit of fresh oil to the rings and reinstalled the filter and lid, tightening the lid snug. To complete our service, we need to swap out the spark plugs. The decorative engine cover is easy to remove. Just take out the dipstick and unsnap the 2 pegs holding the cover to the intake manifold. Next, we unplugged each of the coil packs from the harness. These are held in place with a snap and prong connector, so just press down and slide each one back. Each coil pack is held down by a Torx head screw. Back each one of these off and remove the respective coil pack. Using a spark plug socket and a long extension, we removed each plug and observed the discoloration of each electrode. Using a simple dial indicator, we saw that all 3 spark plugs fell within the 28 thousandths to 30 thousandths range, as per the service manual. It's always wise to double check the spark plug gap. Pre-gapped plugs are often close, but shouldn't be blindly trusted. We manually gapped each new spark plug's electrode to 28 thousandths of an inch. Again, don't torque these down. They should be snug, hand-tight at best. Next, reinstall each coil pack, making sure there's no debris to interfere with the terminal. Plug each coil back into its respective socket and snug down each screw. Content with our work, we reconnected the battery, turned the hose back on, and fired up our newly serviced RXT-X 300. In order to preserve our carbon ring seal as long as possible, we didn't let the engine warm up longer than a minute or 2. The carbon seal is only cooled when it's in water, whether idling in one spot or at speed, so letting it spin out of the water too long can damage the sensitive part. Next, we let our engine cool, disconnected the battery yet again, and prepared to install a Riva Racing Speed Control Override module. Believe it or not, this one product can unlock the hidden potential within the Sea-Doo RXT-X 300, allowing it to run at a sustained 74 plus miles per hour. It does this by interrupting the signal to the factory-installed GPS-monitored speed control function in the Craft's iControl brain, which maintains the Sea-Doo at a United States Coast Guard approved 68 plus miles per hour. Understand that it does not reprogram the ECU or permanently alter the performance or everyday function of the Watercraft. It is 100% reversible and non-invasive. Installation is as easy as tightening down the mounting bracket to the SCOM unit itself. Using a paper template provided in the instructions, we marked the 2 holes where we would drill, careful to align properly to give the SCOM plenty of room away from the reservoir bottle. Drilling the Sea-Doo's deck makes quite a mess, so we laid down a towel to catch most of the dust. Using a smaller bit to drill our pilot holes, we then used a bit supplied by Riva to open the holes wider. We also used a large bit to countersink the holes, so that the supplied mounting bolts would lay flush to the surface. Riva provides all the hardware, including nylock nuts that won't back off or vibrate loose. Tighten these with a 10mm box end wrench. With our SCOM mounted, we next removed the harness diagnostic cable from the reservoir socket and plugged it into the module. We then plugged the SCOM's lead into the reservoir socket, taking the factory plug's place. With that complete, we reattached the positive terminal to the battery and ready to fire up our newly unrestricted RXT-X 300. Before we did though, there was one more trick we wanted to try. The Riva SCOM unit allows for the Sea-Doo to be set in sport mode before starting the ignition. All you have to do now is tap the start-stop button, allowing the gauge cluster to wake up. Then you can set your ski in sport mode like you would normally when the engine was running, by tapping the sport button once and once more to confirm. This option is ideal for racers wanting to start their ski in sport mode from the get-go, but a fun little addition for most of us recreation riders. Now fully serviced and equipped with the SCOM unit, it was time to hit the water. Either selecting sport mode before ignition or after, the 2018 Sea-Doo RXT-X 300's arm stretching acceleration remained the same. It was only as we crept up past 68 miles per hour did the SCOM truly prove its worth. With just a few gallons in the tank, we continued to see gains the longer we held into the throttle. 69, 70, 71, 72, and 73. Wanting to verify, we selected the top speed feature on the Sea-Doo's dashboard, as well as recorded our top speed using both our Garmin GPS and a top speed app on our iPhone 8. Not totally satisfied, we wanted to give it one more try. 72, 73, 74, and bam, 75 miles per hour at 8,040 RPM on a bone stock 2018 Sea-Doo RXT-X 300. It's a pretty impressive feat, especially considering our 240-pound rider at an elevation of 450 feet above sea level and riding with our aggressive handling Riva Pro Series sponsons set at the 4th lowest position. All in all, it's pretty exciting stuff, especially when you consider that speeds like these took literally thousands of dollars in aftermarket parts and tuning just 10 years ago. And it's also a huge testament to the power that this factory Sea-Doo is putting out. I'm Kevin Shaw, and you've been watching the Watercraft Journal. Make sure to check us out Monday through Friday at www.watercraftjournal.com, as well as subscribing to this channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and even leave a comment if you'd like. We love hearing from you guys.